We work with the Palm Center, which is a research center and think tank out in California that works just on this issue. And what they said, this is just the beginning of a dismantling. And what people are not saying is that this issue is being pushed through, frankly, I think, because in some ways it's a lot easier. Public opinion is very high. We're at war, so there's this high level of we need as many people who are willing to serve since we don't have a draft, and that. If you look at something like ENDA, much harder to get through because you have to start Employment Non-Discrimination Act because you have to start talking about a fully inclusive ENDA, which includes transgender people. And so I feel like the priorities that are being set by the larger movement are not always in sync with what feel like the everyday needs of the average LGBT person out there.
Well, lay it out for our audience, the question of why all-inclusive legislation is important and why the transgender struggle for equality is important. Because there are many that say, let's just go for the low-hanging fruit. Why go there?
Well, I take it too, but I find it really interesting because the reality is it has to include gender identity expression. Because when I've experienced discrimination or any kind of issue in the workplace, and this is even in progressive and gay spaces, it's been because of my gender expression. It's not been because of the fact that I'm a lesbian. So, this is not just about LGBT people. This is about straight people. It's about being who you are in the workplace and being allowed to be comfortable and bring your whole self to your employment. And so that's really important.
It's a false divide. You can't separate sexuality and gender. The two things are extremely linked in, how we walk through the world and how we're treated. So it's kind of a fallacy to think that the gay and lesbian community isn't going to be hurt by leaving out gender expression and identity.
Are we making progress?
We are. I mean, I think we've gotten to the point where everyone is pretty much behind an inclusive ENDA, which is huge, right? There was such a mess with that in the past. And, I wanted to say, I think that the things Obama is doing, like the hospital visitation, I think that's really great because it doesn't focus necessarily on the marriage issue, necessarily on sort of like partnerships and relationships, but it does focus on rights and the things that families need and people need. So, I appreciate that he's putting energy into that. I think often we get over-focused on marriage and then we miss some of the things that are really important that don't need to be tied to whether or not someone's legally married.